All right, guys, welcome back to video number 3. I almost said video number 2. Video number 3. We're going to be adding and subtracting rational numbers, which rational numbers include our decimals and our fractions. So we're going to get into our decimals and fractions. We're going to start with the easy one. 7 minus 16. Well, in class, we did keep change opposite. I keep the first number. I change the operation to its inverse operation, and then I do the opposite of the next number, which is negative 16. So think back to video 1 where we did that chart and we looked at the absolute value and we looked at the opposite. That's where this is going to come into play. So when I have 7 plus a negative 16, I'm going to end up with a negative 9. Because remember, different sign, subtract. Okay? See how I've told you math builds? We are building and building and building off of what we've already done. So our answer is negative 9. Over here, we have a decimal. The first thing I've told you to do with a decimal is to write the decimals. And line the decimals up on top of each other. That way, all I need to do is look at what's before my decimal, which is a 4 on this one. And what's after my decimal is a 5 over there. Make sure I can line it up right. And then down here, I have a 6 before my decimal. Why did I put that up so far away? And a 3 after my decimal. Now this one's a little bit easier because they each have one number after the decimal. But sometimes you're going to have more than one number after the decimal, or more than one number before the decimal, which is why putting the decimal first helps you line it up. And then you can put everything that goes in front of it, and everything that goes behind it. And that way, that should help you line it up a little better. I'm also going to, I think I have the graphic organizer that we had in class. So I'll find that, and I'll also put that up on Google Classroom, just so that if you can print it off. If not, you can make your own grid paper by just taking a ruler and just going down. So your regular notebook paper, let me see if I have it. So let's just say I have regular notebook paper, and I'm just gonna draw lines here. Okay, so these lines are already here. So all I gotta do is line up my decimals and then put stuff in. Okay, you understand what I mean? So like we've got grids here, and I make some grids, and that will help me line up my decimals. So then I would have 4 here, 5 here, 6 here, and 3 here. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so line up your decimals and then put everything that goes, so you can make your own grid paper if you have to. Okay, so after I've lined them up, I'm going to add them. I'm still going to start at the back. So 5 plus 3 is 8. And 4 plus 6 is 10. And then I put my decimal in the same place. That's the easiest way to line it up. Okay? Over here, I'm looking at whether my denominator has the same number. In this instance, my denominator has the same number, so I don't need to change anything. All I'm going to do is look at my numerator and add them together. Am I adding my denominator? No. You are keeping your denominator exactly the same. The denominator does not change. When it's the same, it doesn't change. Did I rhyme? When it's the same, it doesn't change? No, not really. All right. Let's look at this one, because this one is the one I think that we have had some trouble with. Doesn't mean we can't conquer it, but we need to really focus on ones that look like this. So do I have the same denominator? No, I do not. I have a 6 and I have a 3. So what do I need to do? I need to find the lowest common denominator. So the lowest common denominator means this has to be a number that they both multiply into evenly. So what are the multiples of 6? We don't need to do all of them. We just do like 3. So 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. Let's look at 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. When I look here, what numbers do they share? What is the lowest common number that they share? Hopefully, you said 6. Because you would be correct. They both share the number 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 6 on the bottom. Remember me doing this? Do it long and then put a 6 on the bottom. When I do here, what I did was 6 times what gives me 6? Well, 6 times 1 gives me 6. So that means I multiplied my numerator and my denominator on this side by 1. So 1 times negative 1 is a negative 1. And a 1 times 6 is 6. Okay? Over here, I'm going to keep my plus sign. How do I go from 3 to 6? What number do I multiply times 3 to get to 6? Hopefully you said the number 2. And then I would say 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 times 2 is 6. I don't need to write it again. I have it already. Then I'm going to continue down with my answer. So we have a negative 1 plus 4. Remember, opposite sign or different sign, subtract. Different sign, subtract. Negative 1 plus 4 is going to give you a positive 3 because remember the absolute value of 4 is greater than 1. And then I keep my 6. Now, are you allowed to keep it like this? I'm hoping that you said no. And the reason I'm hoping you said no is because you need to be able to look at this and say, I can simplify. This needs to be simplified. Okay? When you're doing your answers on Khan Academy, I'm not sure they might say you have to simplify. If they don't, then that's okay. But in 8th grade, remember I told you, for my 8th graders, I expect simplified answers on this one. So how do I simplify it? Well, I'm looking at the 3 and the 6, and I'm saying, well, 3 can actually go into 6. So if I divided 3 from the top and 3 in the bottom, 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So then my final answer is 1/2. My suggestion to you, my lovely students, is to practice these. These aren't as much of a struggle for you. The ones that I really want you to practice are these, because these you're going to see for the rest of your academic career. These are the ones you have to remember multiple steps, okay? You have to remember to find the lowest common denominator. You have to remember that if you have different signs, that they have to be subtracted. You have to remember that you need to simplify sometimes. You don't always need to simplify. Sometimes you can't. But when you can simplify, you have to simplify. So you have multiple steps that you have to do for this one. And this is the one I want you to practice the most. Okay? If you have any questions, make sure you upload them on Google Classroom. There's going to be one more video, and really that's just going to be me talking about some of the rules that we need to remind ourselves on. in terms of our math rules for rational numbers. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next video.